Now we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is cutting costs from your budget. I love living super cheap, and that means I gotta cut costs. Now, one of the biggest costs, I will bet, in your budget is a car. Cars are very expensive, and I'm not just talking about your car payment. You have gas, insurance, and maintenance on those cars. So I want you to sit down and write out what all those costs are. I want this to be clear how much you're spending for your vehicle. So let's look at all those costs. We have your car payment, $250 a month. Your insurance, let's say $60 a month. Gas, let's say $100 a month. And then maintenance, that was hard to calculate. We'll just throw a number of $50 a month, though a lot of you are probably paying more than that in maintenance. But you add all those together, that's $460 a month, and probably a lot more in a lot of your cases. So one car, $460 a month, probably more. Now, I don't want to talk about ways of reducing those individual costs. I think those options are pretty simple. Buy cheap cars, buy fuel-efficient cars, drive less, try and find cheaper insurance, reliable cars that don't need as much maintenance. But I want you to step back and think for a minute. What if I wasn't spending any of that $460 a month on a car? What if I was able to keep that? I was able to invest that into other things. I was able to save it for the future. What if I was able to pay that towards other debts and really pay off my home loan faster, pay off my school debt faster? Now, there are ways of doing this, and for some of you, it's going to be difficult. But I want you to really step back from the situation and think, is it possible for me to get rid of this car? Now, a lot of you are thinking, it's just not possible for me to live without this car. But I want you to bear with me for a minute, and I want you to work on changing your mindset, changing your thinking. What if I paid you $450 a month to live a little bit less convenient life? You might consider it. Some of you probably would consider it. And that's really what you need to look at this situation as. If my life was a little less convenient, I'm getting more money because of it. Now, quite a few years ago, it was actually this very thing that started me along the lines of living super cheap and cutting my expenses. I was doing a lot of exercise at the time, and so I would run to work and I would run home, and then I was looking at my truck and I was not driving it, and it would just sit there because I would run to work and I'd run home. And sometimes I'd drive it to go visit friends or go to events. But for the most part, it wasn't getting driven. And it really got me thinking, what am I paying all this money for? So I decided to get rid of my truck. And it wound up saving me a lot of money. It also forced me to exercise, which was another side benefit from it. But it wasn't a necessary expense, even though before that I would have never considered getting rid of it. And so I want you to think about that. I want you to think, what if my car broke down? What if my car was stolen? How would I get around? How would I get to work? You'll probably come to other conclusions of how you could get around. And maybe that car you have is not so necessary. Now, there's other options as well. You could buy a motorbike, which is typically a lot cheaper, uses a lot less gas. So that's a good option. And then, of course, there's riding a bicycle. Riding a bicycle is a great alternative, and it'll probably get you most places just as fast, if not faster, as long as it gets you some exercise. There's public transportation as well. When I was overseas, I used a lot of public transportation. I liked it because it got me involved in the culture. It got me to see the way the local people traveled. They didn't use cars. A lot of times they would use motorbikes, but there was a lot of people that would use public transportation. And so there are other options. You just need to take the time to sit back and think, what are those other options? Is this vehicle actually necessary? And think about the fact that taking those other options, although less convenient, it's like you're getting paid to take those options. It's like you're getting paid to exercise on your bicycle. It's like you're getting paid to ride a bus because of all the money you're saving not paying for a vehicle. So I want you to take the total cost of your vehicle that you're spending each month. Your car payment, your insurance, your gas, your maintenance. I want you to take all those numbers, add them together, and then multiply them by 12. Now, if it's 460 like I added up earlier, that would be $5,520 a year. So $5,520 a year is what you could save by not having a car. It's what you could get paid for exercising more. I mean, why pay money to go to a gym when you can get paid to exercise? Now, this is just one good way to really cut back your expenses and lower your budget. So I'll give you a little window into my philosophy of super cheap living. It's not this idea of minimalism or being content with having less. It's like I get rewarded for living less comfortably, less conveniently. It's like I get paid to ride my bike to work. It's like I get paid to live in a van. It's like I get paid to live super cheap. Now I've got a super cheap challenge for you. Try to get to work and back for 1 week without your car. Let me know how it goes in the comments below. Please click the thumbs up and subscribe for more super cheap videos. Now stop wasting the money God's given you on cars and start living super cheap. Unless you live in a van, then you can waste money on a van. But it's not really wasting money because you're not paying rent. But anyway, start living super cheap.